The end may finally be here for Harley-Davidson. For over 5 decades, it was America's crown jewel of motorcycling, unstoppable, untouchable, and proud.
I mean, every brand has to maintain its core while it ventures out and expands into new fields, and that was the flaw of the strategy.
But recent reports reveal a company struggling to stay afloat, its numbers in free fall, and its board scrambling to hide the truth. Stick around, because we're pulling back the curtain on how the king of motorcycles went from unstoppable to struggling for survival, and the collapse they're desperate to hide. The revelation, the collapse in numbers.
Harley dealer is taking after a shakeup in leadership has caused uncertainty in the company that's called Milwaukee home for 122 years.
For years, Harley-Davidson tried to mask the cracks, presenting minor setbacks as temporary blips. But what once seemed small has hardened into an undeniable decline, and the numbers now tell a story too bloody to ignore. Analysts have long pointed to the same troubling reality. Harley-Davidson now sells less than half the motorcycles it did at its 2006 peak. Its share of the U.S. large motorcycle market has sunk to the lowest level since the 1980s. The company's stock, once riding high at $75 a share, now drifts near $35, a shadow of its former glory. The first public shock came in the second quarter of 2023 when Harley-Davidson's own filings showed U.S. motorcycle sales down nearly 14% year over year. On their own, these numbers were troubling. The real blow came from heavyweight cruisers, the very machines that built Harley-Davidson's reputation, where sales collapsed by more than 20%. By the third quarter, the decline had spread worldwide. Shipments fell to 47,000 motorcycles, down from 52,000 the year before. Revenue stalled, operating income slipped, and even North America, once Harley-Davidson's fortress, posted a 10% retail drop. Abroad, there was no safety net. Europe and the Middle East declined 5%, while Asia-Pacific swung unpredictably, erasing hopes of stability. By year's end, the trend had solidified. U.S. retail sales dropped more than 8% compared to 2022, and every quarter delivered double-digit losses in heavyweight cruisers. Press releases ignored these realities, but the filings left them exposed, impossible to deny. Then came 2024, when the slide turned into a plunge. Worldwide shipments fell to 148,000. 862 motorcycles, a 17% drop in a single year. Retail sales mirrored the collapse, and in the fourth quarter alone, global sales fell 15%, forcing investors to confront what had long been denied. Breaking the numbers down revealed even sharper losses. North America sank 13% in the fourth quarter. Europe, the Middle East, and Africa dropped 11% across the year. Asia-Pacific imploded, down 18% annually and 26% in the final quarter. Even Latin America, though smaller, fell 7% in the fourth quarter and 5% for the full year. The financial picture hit harder still. Motorcycle revenue fell 15% in 2024, while fourth quarter revenue collapsed to just $420 million, nearly half of the previous year's figure. That quarter ended with a $214 million operating loss. Across the year, consolidated revenue fell 11%, while operating income nearly halved. The company blamed dealer destocking, insisting dealers were ordering fewer motorcycles to manage inventory. Yet, that explanation deepened concern. Dealers cut orders when they expect weak demand. In the fourth quarter of 2024, shipments plunged more than 50%, the steepest collapse in years. The dealer network that once guaranteed Harley-Davidson's strength was now in retreat. A closer look at models revealed a clear split. Touring, trike, and CVO bikes aimed at wealthier riders managed modest growth in North America. But heavyweight cruisers, Harley-Davidson's defining line, continued to fall. Outside the United States, the company blurred categories and withheld detail, leaving more questions than answers. Analysts took note. Some argue Harley-Davidson is concealing the steepest declines by delaying regional reporting or masking losses in Asia and Latin America. If the visible numbers already signal crisis, the hidden ones may point to outright disaster. Meanwhile, the broader economy piled on more pressure. Inflation and high interest rates made buyers hesitate, and hesitation often becomes permanent. Once riders choose rival brands or abandon the purchase altogether, the chance to win them back is rare. This new dark reality has raised several questions, like how much of Harley-Davidson's decline is temporary? The aging rider problem.
From around the world and feel that emotional excitement about Harley-Davidson. The passion is just...
Behind Harley-Davidson's decline lies a demographic shift the company may never fully recover from, unless it undertakes a complete reinvention. In 1990, the average Harley-Davidson buyer was 35. Today, the company admits that number has risen to 49, while analysts suggest it is likely in the late 50s. These are riders old enough to remember the outlaw mystique of Easy Rider, yet far removed from the cultural rhythm of younger generations. Millennials and Gen Z, the riders Harley-Davidson urgently needs, make up only a fraction of its customer base. To them, the chrome and leather image feels less like rebellion and more like nostalgia. For their parents and grandparents, Harley-Davidson's big bikes once represented more than transportation. They were a weekend identity, a chance to slip on leather, fire up a V-twin, and escape into the horizon before returning to ordinary jobs on Monday. That golden era ended with the 2008 financial crisis. Sales collapsed, and the cracks widened. Harley-Davidson had built an empire around riders who were aging out, and it struggled to connect with those who came after. The company tried to adapt. Sportier models were introduced. Three-wheeled trikes kept older customers riding longer. Campus ambassadors targeted students, while new campaigns focused on women and international buyers. The efforts drew attention, but little loyalty. Younger riders admired Harley-Davidson from afar, yet few signed on for ownership. A deeper problem was hidden in Harley-Davidson's own numbers. Internal reports admitted that 70% of U.S. buyers were repeat customers, not new ones. Rather than expanding its base, Harley-Davidson was selling bigger, pricier bikes to the same shrinking audience. Retirees were reaching the end of their riding years. Middle-aged riders were buying fewer motorcycles as costs of living rose. Younger generations, burdened by debt and high housing prices, found a $20,000 bike out of reach. Culture became another barrier. For decades, Harley-Davidson marketed heritage, heavy cruisers, loud pipes, leather jackets, and the promise of rebellion. But to younger riders, rebellion no longer looks like a 900-pound cruiser. It looks like speed, agility, efficiency, or sustainability. What once symbolized freedom now feels heavy, loud, and outdated. When Jochen Zeitz took over as CEO in 2020, he confronted this reality.
I mean, we have defined motorculture full stop. There's nobody else out there.
His predecessor had promised to bring in 2 million new riders with smaller, cheaper bikes. A vision that failed. Zeitz abandoned it, raising prices, cutting entry-level models, and focusing on Harley-Davidson's most profitable machines, touring bikes and premium cruisers. On paper, the strategy worked. Profits rose and investors were reassured. But the demographic clock kept ticking. Harley-Davidson was making more money per bike, but selling fewer of them to an older base with no clear successor. Zeitz argues the problem is economic, not cultural. He points to high interest rates, shifting consumer spending, and new marketing campaigns as evidence of renewed relevance. Racing programs, fresh models, and influencer partnerships are highlighted as proof. Yet the numbers tell a different story. Meanwhile, rivals have stepped into the space Harley-Davidson abandoned. Indian Motorcycle, revived under Polaris, now offers a line of affordable Scouts that undercut Harley-Davidson's cruisers. Royal Enfield, with its vintage designs and modest prices, has attracted thousands of young riders in North America since 2015. These brands don't promise thunderous rebellion, they promise accessibility. And younger riders are responding. With all these, it is clear that deviating from tradition may be Harley-Davidson's next path. However, past experience shows this route is far from smooth, having turned into a nightmare the last time they tried it. The Livewire disaster. When Harley-Davidson launched the Livewire in 2019, it was billed as more than a motorcycle.
The electric bike is that it's full torque when you just open.
It was a declaration, a bold statement that the century-old company could leave behind its reputation for heavy cruisers and embrace the future of electric mobility. Harley-Davidson wanted the Livewire to silence critics, to prove that it still had the vision to lead. But almost immediately, the dream began to unravel. The motorcycle meant to symbolize rebirth instead revealed deep fractures within the company. What had been advertised as a turning point quickly became one of the most visible failures in Harley-Davidson's history. The first warning came with its price tag. At $29,799, the Livewire placed itself in direct competition not only with electric rivals like Zero, but also with entry-level electric cars, such as the Nissan Leaf. For a generation already burdened with student loans, rent, and high living costs, the bike was not just expensive, it was unreachable. Harley-Davidson had hoped young professionals in their 20s and 30s would embrace it. Instead, those same riders could barely justify a commuter car, let alone a motorcycle priced like a luxury sedan. The cost also alienated Harley-Davidson's older core audience. Riders who had spent decades devoted to the brand were drawn to the raw power and thunderous growl of the V-twin. The Livewire offered none of that. To them, it wasn't a Harley-Davidson at all. It was too costly for young buyers and too unfamiliar for loyalists. Even among those who could afford it, the bike raised doubts. The acceleration was thrilling. Instant electric torque gave it remarkable speed in city traffic. Reviewers praised the build quality, the futuristic design, and the sense of solidity. Yet the excitement faded when range entered the conversation. In urban settings, the Livewire managed around 140 miles. On highways, that figure dropped below 100. For a brand built on long rides and open highways, such limits were a contradiction.
Far on a charge, but the good news is that this is one of the few motorcycles that supports DC fast charging.
Charging compounded the frustration. While the bike supported fast charging stations, most riders relied on ordinary outlets, which took hours to replenish the battery. The motorcycle was neither practical for daily commuting nor feasible for long-distance touring. Harley-Davidson had built a machine that clashed with the very idea of freedom and endurance that had always defined the brand. The marketing campaign did little to repair the perception. Harley-Davidson presented the Livewire as a sleek, high-tech performance bike, using glossy visuals and futuristic messaging.
You just open and put the plug at home so you can charge with your home normal electricity.
But it never answered the fundamental question: who was this motorcycle for? Harley-Davidson's brand had always been about rebellion, belonging, and identity on the open road. The Livewire's advertising leaned heavily on specifications, lacking emotional resonance. Urban commuters? Wealthy thrill seekers? The message was blurred. The result was that no one felt it was truly meant for them. Traditional Harley-Davidson riders dismissed it. Young riders, who might have been curious, found nothing compelling enough to take the plunge. Instead of inspiring a movement, the Livewire became a curiosity, admired by some but purchased by almost no one. At the Livewire dealership level, the problems deepened. Harley-Davidson's network was unprepared and often unwilling to handle the new product. Selling electric motorcycles required infrastructure, specialized tools, and training. Many live-wire dealers balked at the investment, particularly when they doubted the motorcycle would sell in meaningful numbers. Without dealer enthusiasm, the live-wire sat neglected in showrooms, its glossy finish gathering dust under fluorescent lights.
Or 105 horsepower of raw power and has a 0 to 60 mile per hour time of just 3 seconds.
The financial reality was brutal. In its first year, LiveWire sold only a few hundred units. Harley-Davidson had spent millions developing, promoting, and distributing the motorcycle, but the return was negligible. By 2021, the company tried to salvage the project by spinning LiveWire into a standalone brand. It was both an admission of failure and a final attempt to reframe the narrative. Even as an independent brand, LiveWire faltered. New models like the S2 Del Mar and Mulholland launched with fanfare, but prices remained steep, often exceeding $16,000. Range remained limited, and losses piled up. By 2023, LiveWire reported $125 million in annual losses. By 2025, even a single quarter showed nearly $30 million lost, while total sales for the year reached just 117 units. Harley-Davidson had once projected that LiveWire would sell over 100,000 units by 2026. At this pace, that target is not merely unrealistic, it is impossible. The collapse of LiveWire revealed deeper issues within Harley-Davidson. First was the conflict between tradition and innovation. The same culture that once fueled Harley-Davidson's power now restricted its ability to change. Second was a flawed strategy. Instead of building a practical, affordable machine for a broad audience, Harley-Davidson focused on a symbolic gesture. Third was the weakness of its dealer network, which was never fully prepared to support or champion the move into electric motorcycles. Most damaging of all, LiveWire tarnished Harley-Davidson's image as a leader. Competitors like Zero and Energica advanced with focused, affordable offerings. Smaller entrants, such as UK-based Maving, entered the US market with motorcycles priced at half the cost of Harley-Davidson's. While rivals gained traction, Harley-Davidson became synonymous with a botched experiment. Instead of pioneering the electric age, the company appeared clumsy and out of touch. When it comes to competitors, who truly dominates the motorcycle industry? And how have they managed to displace Harley-Davidson from its once unshakable throne? Global competition, golden thread setup. One of Harley-Davidson's greatest threats comes from Japanese manufacturers like Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, and Kawasaki. Since the 1970s, these companies have fundamentally reshaped the motorcycle industry, offering reliable, fuel-efficient machines at prices that most riders could afford. They built reputations on precision engineering, adaptability, and scale. And today they continue to dominate key global markets with a level of consistency and innovation Harley-Davidson has struggled to match.
That kind of brand stuff from Harley-Davidson was just like 10 years ago.
Honda, for instance, reached an all-time high in 2024, setting sales records in 37 countries and territories while reporting global motorcycle sales of 20.57 million units. This achievement represents not just a milestone in volume, but an example of Honda's unmatched ability to cater to riders across the spectrum, from 100cc commuter bikes in congested Asian cities to high-end touring machines for international buyers. Yamaha followed closely behind, reporting 4.8 million global sales in the same year, marking a 4.4% increase from 2023. Yamaha's success rests on a diverse portfolio ranging from nimble sport bikes and agile naked bikes to cruisers and off-road models, a strategy that ensures appeal to both urban riders and long-distance adventurers. Suzuki, meanwhile, surged to 2.1 million units in 2024, its highest annual sales in 15 years. The company's strength lies in affordability and reliability, with a solid foothold in India, Southeast Asia, and Europe, allowing it to attract both first-time buyers and loyal enthusiasts. Kawasaki, although reporting a lower total of 244,887 units sold globally, remains a formidable competitor in North and Latin America, particularly in sport, adventure, and high-performance touring categories. These Japanese manufacturers have succeeded not only by producing diverse and reliable motorcycles, but also by understanding shifting consumer preferences decades before Harley-Davidson responded. They captured millions of first-time riders.
Harley-Davidson responded with the Sportster. You ever heard of it? Maybe the most significant bike.
Nurtured loyalty early and built scalable production models that allowed for rapid adaptation across markets. Honda's efficiency and innovation pipeline, for instance, ensures the company consistently brings to market models that balance performance, fuel efficiency, and affordability, while Yamaha and Suzuki focus on performance reliability and accessibility. Kawasaki, often seen as a specialist in high-performance motorcycles, has leveraged technological innovation to stay competitive, even in smaller markets. Unlike Harley, these brands embraced global markets aggressively, producing machines that fit local needs, climate, and road conditions, qualities Harley-Davidson's heavy, expensive, and US-centric lineup has struggled to replicate. European brands present another significant challenge, particularly in the premium segment. BMW, Motorrad, Ducati, and Triumph have carved out strong positions, appealing to younger, wealthier riders who prize performance, design, and modern technology over nostalgia. BMW Motorrad reached a historic milestone in 2024, delivering 210,408 motorcycles globally. BMW's success is grounded in engineering excellence and a portfolio that spans premium touring, urban commuting, and adventure bikes, combining technology with performance reliability. Ducati, a name synonymous with speed and Italian flair, reported 58,224 units sold in 2023 and continues to dominate the sport and performance motorcycle category. Ducati has consistently introduced advanced engineering features such as lightweight chassis, high-performance electronics, and aerodynamic designs that attract enthusiasts willing to pay for both style and performance. Triumph, on the other hand, has reinvented itself to appeal to design-joutuous, forward-looking riders, achieving record global sales of 134,635 motorcycles in 2024, a 64% increase from the previous year. Triumph's success rests on modern interpretations of classic British motorcycles, combining nostalgia with innovation in mid-capacity and premium offerings, such as the Scrambler and Speed Twin series. Each European brand blends tradition with innovation, reinterpreting heritage for contemporary markets, something Harley-Davidson has struggled to achieve while remaining tied to its iconic but aging product philosophy. Closer to home, Harley-Davidson faces perhaps its most direct competitor, Indian Motorcycle, revived under Polaris Industries. Indian competes in the same cruiser and touring categories, offering motorcycles that preserve the spirit of American engineering while incorporating modern technology, competitive pricing, and improved ergonomics. In the first half of 2025, Indian sold 13,988 units globally, marking a modest 2.1% decline compared to the previous year. Despite this dip, Indian's strong performance in North America highlights its growing influence and capacity to challenge Harley-Davidson's once assumed dominance. For Harley, this is not just a matter of overlapping product categories, it is a battle for brand identity. Indian positions itself as a contemporary American cruiser, targeting the same demographic that Harley-Davidson has traditionally relied on, eroding the assumption that loyalty in Harley-Davidson's home market is automatic or guaranteed. Globally, Harley-Davidson has struggled most significantly in Asia, where motorcycles are less leisure devices and more everyday necessities. In India and Southeast Asia, Tens of millions of motorcycles are sold annually. Yet Harley-Davidson has remained largely absent due to a combination of high pricing, heavy American designs, and a lack of localized adaptation. Royal Enfield has established itself as a dominant force in India, selling more motorcycles each month than Harley-Davidson has in a decade. In 2025, Royal Enfield reported over 1 million global units sold, with continued dominance in the 250cc plus segment. Even here, however, Royal Enfield's market share is projected to drop from over 90% to around 75% as competition intensifies from new entrants such as Triumph's collaboration with Bajaj Auto and Harley-Davidson's renewed push in the market. Royal Enfield's success stems from an intimate understanding of local markets. Its motorcycles are designed for affordability, reliability, and everyday usability, all while maintaining a strong, heritage-focused brand identity that resonates with Indian riders. The company carefully adapts its models to local road conditions, traffic patterns, and fuel realities, demonstrating a market-driven approach that Harley-Davidson has long overlooked. Harley-Davidson's first attempt to penetrate India in 2020 was quietly disastrous, with fewer than 30,000 units sold due to prohibitive pricing and the sheer impracticality of heavy American motorcycles on narrow, congested roads. Recognizing this failure, Harley-Davidson returned in 2023 with a new strategy, partnering with Hero MotoCorp to produce the X440 locally. Priced at approximately $2,870, the X440 is the cheapest Harley-Davidson ever produced and represents a critical pivot towards smaller, more accessible motorcycles. Early indicators are promising. More than 25,000 reservations arrived within months, signaling significant demand for entry-level Harleys in emerging markets. However, questions loom over whether Harley-Davidson can sustain this approach and whether it can scale smaller engine motorcycles without diluting the brand's iconic identity rooted in heavyweight cruisers and premium touring machines. Meanwhile, other brands are moving faster. Triumph's partnership with Bajaj Auto produced mid-capacity motorcycles like the Speed 400 and Scrambler 400X, selling more than 14,000 units within weeks, a figure that surpassed the company's sales in India over the past decade. Even Royal Enfield, previously untouchable in its core segments, now faces credible competition, with projected market share in the 250cc plus segment declining due to aggressive pricing, design refreshes, and international marketing campaigns. Harley, once a market leader, is now playing catch-up, entering markets it historically ignored and struggling to establish a foothold amid more agile competitors. Does Harley-Davidson reinvent itself for international markets without losing the identity that once made it untouchable? Or will it find that nostalgia alone is no longer enough to survive in a rapidly evolving world? The golden thread reveal the shocking truth. In the second quarter of 2025, Harley-Davidson reported a 19% drop in consolidated revenue, with global motorcycle shipments falling by 28%. Operating income plummeted by 53%, largely driven by a staggering 69% decline at Harley-Davidson Motor Company itself. Harley-Davidson's global retail sales declined by 7% in 2024, with North American sales down by 4%, and Europe, the Middle East, and Africa sales falling by 11%. This downturn underscores the company's struggle to maintain market share amid intensifying competition and shifting consumer preferences. In response to these pressures, the company turned to financial engineering. Over $5 billion in retail loan receivables and a 4.9% stake in Harley-Davidson Financial Services were sold to KKR and PIMCO, with $450 million of the proceeds earmarked to reduce debt. At the same time, deep cuts were implemented, staff reductions, operational consolidation, and scaled-back research and development. On paper, These measures stabilize earnings, but they do not address a more fundamental issue. Harley-Davidson is struggling to connect with younger and more diverse riders. Profits increasingly reflect financial maneuvering rather than genuine demand. Financing has become the lifeblood of Harley-Davidson sales. For many buyers, the only way to afford a Harley-Davidson is through the company's in-house programs. Less visible, however, is that Harley-Davidson has quietly increased interest rates on these loans. While top-tier credit customers can secure rates as low as 4.49% through Eagle Mark Savings Bank, lower credit tiers or longer terms face sharply higher rates. This strategy ensures that sales appear healthy, yet burdens new buyers and raises questions about sustainable demand. Critics warn that this reliance on financing inflates revenue figures artificially, risking the slow erosion of the customer base even as the balance sheets appear strong. For a brand built on passion and identity, this focus on finance over motorcycles feels like a betrayal. Riders dream of the open road, not loan statements. Yet increasingly, Harley-Davidson's survival plan revolves around accounting maneuvers rather than motorcycles that inspire a new generation. The company even withdrew its 2025 financial forecast amid global tariff tensions and economic uncertainty, signaling the fragility of its current strategy. Analysts caution that Harley-Davidson's focus on premium motorcycles may limit its appeal in regions dominated by smaller, more affordable bikes. Strategic dilemmas continue to mount. Harley-Davidson announced plans to relocate production of its Revolution max-engine motorcycles, including the Pan America, Sportster, and Nightster, to Thailand. The decision aims to mitigate the impact of a 31% EU tariff on American-made motorcycles and address the company's nearly $7 billion in debt. The EMEA region, Harley-Davidson's second-largest market, accounted for 16% of global sales, making the move abroad a financial necessity. The relocation has sparked backlash from unions, including the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, citing job losses and broken commitments. Over 600 union workers have already been laid off amid dealership closures across the U.S. The company insists the relocation is temporary and plans a $9 million investment in domestic manufacturing. Yet public perception is cautious. Leadership is also in flux, with Artie Starrs set to take the helm as CEO in October, a move that may or may not stabilize strategic direction. Critics argue that inconsistent leadership and unclear strategy have exacerbated the crisis. Thanks for watching. Now check the videos popping on screen for more unbelievable stories.